Hi, it's John. Welcome back to FinTech Plus. Thanks for following us again. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Ion Padilla Lopez. He is the CEO
Hello.
and co-founder of WeGaw. Hi, Ion. How you doing?
All good. How about you?
Doing good. Thanks for coming today. I was hoping we could get started with you just giving the WeGaw pitch, and then we'll get into some questions, okay?
Sure. So WeGaw basically is a geospatial company. We process remote sensing satellite data with artificial intelligence. The idea is that we can extract insights from these data sets in order to monitor renewable energy sources like water and snow. The main idea is that with these data sets, we can help renewable energy companies better forecast future energy production from renewable energy assets. At this point, we're focused primarily in hydropower, and the idea is that energy utilities owning hydropower assets, they can better estimate the amount of water availability short and long term in order to better estimate energy capacity, production, and the future energy trading of the outcome megawatts.
Thanks for that introduction to the company. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're building a company in Switzerland, but you're not originally from here. How did that journey go?
Exactly. So I'm originally Spanish. I have a background in software engineering. I finished my university studies in England, and then I moved to Switzerland. I joined the CERN, the Nuclear Research Center, where the Large Hadron Collider is in Geneva, and I worked there as an engineer for some time. Then I moved into a more business role as a business consultant in HP. So there I joined the innovation centers where I was running sort of a strategic workshop with HP clients in order to facilitate the deployment of new technologies for strategic business decisions. So I was facilitating that in HP. And then at that point, I decided to jump into entrepreneurship. That's where we founded WeGaw.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what's that market like, and why was it a great opportunity for you to get involved in this space? It's something that obviously touches on, big topics like the weather and the power that we rely on every day in our lives. But how did this become an attractive market space to start a new venture for you?
So actually, the market is extremely interesting because classically, energy companies, what they would do in order to trade the energy is that they need to calculate the amount of future energy that they will be able to produce. As you are really familiar with, when you're going to an exchange and you're selling your energy, what you will need to do is in the form of future contracts, right? So in 1 month, in 2 months, you would be selling X amount of megawatts, and some people will purchase that future contract and therefore receive that energy on a given date. With classic, let's say, fossil fuel alternatives, it's a matter of supply chain. I have X amount of kilograms of coal, therefore I can produce Y amount of megawatts, right? The problem is when we move to renewable energy, is not that simple. It's not that easy to know how much water I would be having or receiving in my lake and therefore producing as energy. And certainly it's really difficult to understand how much sun or wind we would have in our renewable assets to forecast the energy production. So energy companies are looking for ways of helping them better forecast the future energy, because that will reduce their imbalance, the amount of energy that they have calculated wrong, and then they need to sort of rebalance it by buying it on the day market or otherwise producing it from a different source of energy. And this is already a big problem for companies that have a high amount of portfolio in renewable energies, but this has been accelerated by the the political climate. In some of our clients, they are operating in regions that they are already pushing for 100% renewable energy production. And in this case, you cannot rely on classic fossil fuel solutions. So you need to be as good as possible in forecasting the future energy production in order to reduce the impact of imbalance in your organization.
Thank you for that, Ian. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about how you've actually put together the innovation in your solution to meet this demand, and how you're turning that into a business model that works for you and also for clients in this market.
Indeed. So the main part of the innovation is how we can move away from classic weather or physical model solutions that have been historically used in order to forecast things like precipitation, temperature, etc. We all know that these models can work relatively good in short term. So for the weather that is going to arrive tomorrow or in a couple of days, but when we go long term, these are extremely difficult to forecast using classical physical models. So our idea is to give sort of a different perspective to this problem and bring relatively new technology, which is remote sensing data, and specifically with the amount of hardware that has been put in orbit recently, with things like SpaceX, that has reduced quite abruptly the cost of payload to put a satellite in orbit. So it turns out that right now there is lots of data inputs that we can gather from space data that now can be reused in new verticals, in this case in the energy vertical. So combining these with artificial intelligence that is going to, between brackets, fill the holes of knowledge that this raw data extracted from satellite data is not going to be able to provide us, what we can do is create a really nice looking data set of current status in terms of water and snow, and obviously historical data that can go back to 20 years. So that it's an excellent opportunity to have a really high quality data set that can be used to help us forecast and understand better the opportunities of, in this case, water availability over time. But obviously this can be extended to many different data sets. You have many other companies that are focusing in other areas like drought or chlorophyll levels or land use and so on.
Can you tell us a bit about some of the milestones that the company's gone through? Because you have actual clients. You've been around now to the point where you've actually established a proper business, and I think that story is interesting to see the traction.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So obviously, these kind of companies are. It takes quite some time to put together a product that is appreciated on the market because when you are talking about B2B and when we're talking about corporate companies that they require of quite an intense sales process and relationship management that needs to be proved with high quality product, it takes quite some time to get there. The first sort of 2 to 3 years we spent it working on the product, fine-tuning all the angles to the product. On those years we had as well the participation of the European Space Agency, which helped through the program, the business applications of the European Space Agency, which we received financial support through the Swiss Space Office. Then we went through a couple of accelerators like Climate Geek, which is a really nice accelerator at European level for clean tech startups that helped putting together some connections. We accelerated through Mass Challenge as well, which is Boston-based international accelerator that has another office in Switzerland. And then by the end of 2019, we launched officially the product, which was able at that time already of monitoring snow cover extent. And we have been obviously keep adding different functionalities, different data sets like snow depth, the wet snow, dry snow, etc. And then during 2020 is when we started to have the first commercial relationships with energy clients in different regions. So it took quite a bit of a journey to get here.
And I'm curious, along the way, you mentioned you've been involved in some grant programs with the European Space Agency, but what has the fundraising or the funding story been like for the company?
Yeah, so aside of the European Space Agency, which in a nutshell is a contractual relationship, although it could be considered as a grant, We opened, we have some investment that was closed in 2019. That was our sort of pre-seed round, if you could call it like that. We have primarily business angels, friends and family, and some small funds involved at that time. So we closed around 400,000 Swiss francs of investment. And then right now we are in the process of raising another round. In these cases, the objective is completely different. There is already a product in place. We have the first customer, so the idea is to fine-tune the sales and growth engine of the company. So that's what we are raising the seed round for.
That sounds great. And actually, that was going to be my next question was, where is the focus really now for you and the company? What are you really trying to achieve? Is it customer acquisition, continuing to develop your product, fundraising, or all of the above?
Obviously, fundraising takes a big chunk of my time, but obviously the objective of the startup should never be only to fundraise, right? Because otherwise we would be all the time in front of investors and not in front of clients, which should be the case. So I think at this point, our objective is, in terms of growth, there are two main objectives, aside of obviously keep on developing the product and delivering high quality data sets to our clients. In terms of business growth, there is a couple of things that I believe are really important as next steps for the company. The first one is have the ability to keep engaging with current clients, which is what we're focusing on. Keep on delivering value to them and closing, recurrent business with them, so that they can use our data sets regularly and annually. And on the other end, obviously generate new business. When it comes to startup like this one, which is focusing in energy utilities and the energy business in particular, which has certain particularities that is quite close to the government side, to public entities, and that the energy utilities are funded in a specific way. The way that the sales team needs to be built has some particularities as well. We're relying a lot in partnerships. We're trying to engage in partnerships at regional level in all the, let's say, regions that we are, in all the countries that we have a presence in. And at the same time, we're trying to build a really thorough process, giving lots of flexibility for our clients to go step by step, analyzing the impact that our data set can create. So we want to professionalize that sales process, put a team together that can, regularly reproduce the best learnings we had over time, so that we can grow as fast as possible from now on.
I want to come back to talking about the team in just a second, but before we do that, can you talk a little bit further about where you're focused on growth? Are there particular industry segments or geographic regions that are most interesting for you as you grow?
Yeah, obviously we are deeply involved in Switzerland. Obviously we're talking to several different energy utilities in Switzerland. We're talking to some energy traders as well, which I'm going to talk in a second. In terms of regions, we are as well engaging in Canada. We have a partner we're working closely with in order to explore new opportunities in Canada. We have done some business as well in Spain. We're exploring mountainous regions like Andorra, for example. And in the DACH region, we're maintaining conversations with companies in Austria, for example, in Germany, obviously Eastern Switzerland. So in a nutshell, we're currently focused in the Pyrenees range, alpine range, and the northern US or Northern America, primarily Canada.
It just came to mind, speaking of these alpine regions, do you also see an opportunity for tourism, for example, working with ski resorts and others where there might be an interest in forecasting snowfall and snow conditions?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. Actually, when we started the company, the first thing that came to mind was the tourism sector. It's a really interesting market, and it has its own particularities. So basically, for the tourism sector, that, as you know, is low profit, high volume market in which you are trying to get as many people involved as possible. The budget that you will find there are relatively low. So in order to get into that market more aggressively, we'll need to produce a product that is not as accurate, so more cost effective, in order to be able to engage with these kind of clients. We still have some clients in the tourism industry that we're still engaged in, and we're always looking for opportunities. But let's say that the needs that this sector has are slightly different from the ones that we can provide.
Thanks for touching on that. That's interesting to learn more about, and I'm curious to see how it develops. Speaking of development, you've mentioned that you're a Swiss company, but we're in different cities right now. You're in Malaga, Spain, you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about how you've been able to build an international team around this opportunity? Because I thought that was something unique about your company.
Yeah. So well, I guess that the situation is forcing to become more and more international, because it's giving you so much more in terms of availability in different regions, right? The fact that we are connected to the Swiss innovation ecosystem, and the fact that our Swiss office can attract so much talent for innovation, research, and so on and so forth, has opened up the question as well that when we are, because we're operating worldwide, right? And we have some business as well in Spain, that we could potentially open another office in Spain in order to grow, let's say, our more developing marketing, more sales needs that are required for other regions, like in this case could be Iberia or even South America. So that's something that we have started to work on, and we would like to keep on growing because we've seen so much potential of having two such different regions on board.
And going a little bit further into the detail, do you want to talk about your co-founders and the team that you've put together?
Sure. So we're a team of 5 currently. So basically we are a combination of different cultures, background. I think the magic of WeGaw, the magic sauce, as we claim, is the combination of all these put together, right? The fact that when we're operating in Eastern Switzerland, Germany, Austria, we have native German speakers, native French speakers, native Spanish speakers. It can give us the flexibility to engage at really lots of different levels with our clients. And at the same time, the fact that we have so many different disciplines that have been crucial in order to put together this product, from Daria, that is geospatial technologies, and is leading the product together with Gonzalo and Tom, that are telecommunication engineers and remote sensing and machine learning experts, together with Hugo, that is our environmental scientist, that has been able to create this understanding or building these insights of what we're able to extract from our combination of telecommunication signal treatment and deep learning and machine learning techniques.
That's great. Thank you for going through that. I wondered, would it be worthwhile to show a little bit about what WeGaw actually does and let people see into the power of the insights you're delivering?
Sure. Maybe can I share my screen?
All
yours. So what we're seeing here is our defrost, which is able to snow levels anywhere in the world. This is, let's say, our low resolution product. Obviously, are monitoring on a more granular level, a specific region. Basically, we're using our high resolution product. But here we can see what is that we're able to put together. So in this case, if we would be zooming in a particular region, how we're monitoring the depthness of the snow in the different. We can see snow that there is in a particular. So this is extremely handy for our clients to understand the amount of snow that is already of the mountains and would so this is pretty much the, let's say, the visualization of the product, but obviously our clients demand that we are able to provide an API in which we're sending daily data sets and weekly reports on the different changes that they have suffered in the particular region. So they are able to understand as well what are going to be the insights in terms of water availability short-term, water availability long-term, and the different alerts and reports that we're creating for them.
Very cool. Thanks for showing us that, Ian. I wanted to start wrapping things up by asking, in general, where do you see this developing? You've connected a few dots here. We're talking about FinTech, but you've also mentioned launching satellites and how that's created a new opportunity. But there's also things like machine learning, and I would assume blockchain that could play a role in what you're doing here. Do you want to say a few things about the broad perspective on where your innovation is going within the fintech space?
Sure. Regarding fintech, there are a bunch of different opportunities. Like, for example, we have I met relatively recently an organization based in Switzerland that is called Energy Web, and basically they're using blockchain in order to sort of keep track of the megawatts and the origin of the megawatts that we consume, because more and more is starting to concern the general public how the energy that we're consuming was created, and if it's following the regulations that the general public wants. So in this case, this would be a really interesting way for things to move forward. On our end, what we see is that as we're moving more and more toward renewable energy, we need to have a certain way, and I believe that these kind of data sets from space data are key here, a way of understanding future energy production, not only for hydropower in this sense, but cross vertical, wind, solar, offshore, etc. So we see how several other energy and several other companies that are producing as well data sets in order to monitor these different renewable energies, such as that in the future we could possibly create an index in which all this information around energy production could be potentially stored, because this is going to be critical to understand energy security, to understand the price volatility, and how exchanges are going to evolve over time. This being said, I think regarding fintech, there are a bunch of really interesting opportunities, which is that when energy production is relying more and more in this kind of renewable energy assets, the fact that this data is going to be more and more available, as we have proven, it means that speculative trading will have quite a bit of a turn in how things are being done, where in the past could relay more in things like oil price, in things like coal exchanges, or even sort of political news. Here we're seeing how more and more environmental data is going to become key in order to understand energy production and how that is going to influence prices over time.
Very interesting thoughts to leave our audience with there. Before I wrap things up here, Ian, I wanted to give you an opportunity to say a few last words to the audience at FinTech Plus, especially those who might be interested in contacting you to get involved with WeGaw.
Sure. I think that we're extremely interested in pursuing this particular opportunity, which is how these data sets are going to influence trading, and particularly energy trading, but aside of energy trading as well, commodity trading. So I will love to exchange with interested individuals or companies that are already operating in this space to together find out how these kind of data sets can add value on the long run.
Great. Well, thank you again for all the insights and the time today, Ian. I hope things are going well with the recovery from COVID over in Spain, and looking forward to catching up with you in the coming months to share more news about WeGaw, whether it's in person or again via a link like this. So thanks again. Best wishes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Likewise. Bye-bye.